All right, in this video, we're going to look at naming and writing the formulas for ionic compounds. And we're going to look at naming compounds first. So the steps you want to do when you're naming your ionic compound is you want to name the cation first. And if you remember, the cation, that is your positive ion. So usually your cation is your metal. Then you're going to name the anion second. Your anion is your negative ion. And we will typically change the ending of your anion to "ide." So like bromine becomes bromide, sulfur becomes sulfide, oxygen becomes oxide. The only exception would be if we have what we call a polyatomic ion. So let's take a look at some polyatomic ions. So you will know you have a polyatomic ion if you have more than 2 elements involved in your compound. So like if we look at some examples here, like, CaF2, that just has 2 elements in it, calcium and fluorine. But if we see this, NH4NO3, that's got 4 elements in it. So this, if you see more than 2 elements, that's a sign that you have a polyatomic ion. And when there's a polyatomic ion involved, you don't do anything to the name. You just write it, based on this table right here. So here are these 6 common polyatomic ions that we should be aware of. And you don't have to memorize them. You can just refer back to this table. Most of them are anions. Most of them are negative. There's one exception. Ammonium is a cation, so NH4 with a positive charge. So hydroxide is when you have an oxygen and hydrogen that together have a negative charge. Like this whole, compound has a negative charge. So it's polyatomic ion, meaning it's an ion made up of more than 1 atom. That's what that name means. All right, so let's give this a try. Let's try some practice. So in this example, we can say, let's look at CaF2. So I'm going to name the metal first, that's calcium. Then I'm going to name the non-metal, so fluorine, except I'm going to change the ending to "ide." So this becomes calcium fluoride. All right, let's look at the second one. So AlCl3. So I'm going to name the metal first, that's aluminum. And if you're not sure about your element names, just look on your periodic table. Okay, have a periodic table handy where you can, look up the names of these, elements there. Hopefully you're doing them enough where you'll start to just memorize some of them. So Al is aluminum, Cl is chlorine, but I'm going to change the ending to chloride. So that's aluminum chloride. And then MgSO4, notice this has magnesium and sulfur and oxygen. It's got 3 elements in it. So that's your clue that one of these is probably a polyatomic ion. So I'm going to look over my list and see if any of these look familiar. And I see, SO4, SO4. So SO4 is sulfate. So this substance is going to be magnesium sulfate. All right, so let's try some examples down here. So we're going to name the metal first. So Mg, it's right over here. That's magnesium. And then Br, if you look on your periodic table, I'm going to move this over so you can see it better. Br is over here. That's bromine. But I'm going to change the ending to "ide." So it becomes magnesium bromide. All right. Let's look at the next one. Ba is right over here on the periodic table. That looks like barium. And then P right over here, it's phosphorus. And so what happens is we drop that "-ous and we just turn it into phosphide. So phosphorus becomes phosphide. All right, Ca, that's right here, that is calcium. And then S over here, that is sulfur. So sulfur becomes sulfide. And the next one is also calcium again. Ca is calcium. And then Cl, chlorine, but it becomes chloride. So you notice on all these ones we're changing the ending to "ide." And then this next one, we've got aluminum and phosphorus and oxygen. We've got 3 elements in it. So whenever you have like more than 2 elements, that means you've got a polyatomic ion somewhere. So I'm going to look over here on my list of polyatomic ions, and I see right here PO4, that's phosphate. So this is aluminum phosphate. And then we'll do one more. We've got sodium, oxygen, hydrogen. Again, we have 3 elements. There must be a polyatomic ion in there somewhere. So if I look at my list, OH, I see an OH here, so that must be hydroxide. So this one right here is sodium hydroxide. All right, so those are some examples of how you can name a compound based on the chemical formula. And then we'll have a separate video talking about writing the formula based on the name.